if in the draft legislation that we have before us, it includes provisions that reauthorize, modernize, and extend the federal and state technology partnership program. FAST, of course, is a program to encourage SBIR applications from small firms located in areas that are underrepresented in the SBIR program. My question is, will the SBA support reauthorization of FAST?
We think FAST has a lot of value, excuse me, and at this point I believe we will, but I'm still clarifying that with some of my colleagues.
Okay. In your written statement, you outline the legal basis for SBA support of current SBIR eligibility rules. Your statement does not, however, address the fact that leaders in both the public and private sector believe the SBA's eligibility rules are having a negative impact on the overall objectives of the SBIR program. Keep in mind that the firms that are rendered ineligible for SBIR because of their ownership structure often have fewer than 25 employees. How would you respond to those, including people from your own administration, like the director of the NHA, argue that the current rules undermine the statutory purposes of the SBIR program?
Well, I think there are a lot of issues inherent in that question, and the question I have in that is there are a few issues. First of all, the language as it's drafted right now defines a venture capital firm as being small if it has fewer than 500 employees. I think that will cover virtually every independent venture capital firm in the world. So it's really, I mean, you know, the major multi-billion-dollar venture capital firms who do early-stage investing may have 20 or 25 partners. So I think the important thing from my perspective is to understand what truly is a large firm. Now, I understand the other issue is I think this program focuses on 2.5% of the dollars. And the question I have is, why do we need to open up a program that has 2.5% of the research dollars to firms that are supported by very large venture capitalists when 97.5% or $82 billion is also available? I think it's important for us to keep the integrity of the small business nature of this program. Now, let me make one other comment, ma'am. I do believe that there may be a better way to look at size within the venture capital world. And I would love to roll up my sleeves and work with this committee and with the industry and with other people in the executive branch to figure out if there is a better way to make sure that good small businesses are not being excluded. But I do think the language as it's written right now would allow some very large venture capitalists in the program.
So, we will work with you on the eligibility rules, because what we are discussing here is the SBIR program and the objective of the program.
The objective of the program, as I understand it, is to work with small businesses to seed early-stage innovation that has a viable commercialization possibility. And so the question is, what's a small business? Which I think is what you're asking. If it's a different question, I apologize if I didn't answer it.
Under current law, the Department of Defense is permitted to use available SBIR funds for expenses incurred through the administration of commercialization programs. In your written statement, you cautioned Congress to avoid refocusing the program in a manner that involves direct support for commercialization activities more appropriately performed by the private sector. Could you elaborate on what does that mean?
Well, right now, our program provides grants for Stage 1 and Stage 2 research. As a firm moves toward commercialization, they are available for other federal funding. But under the program as it's structured, as I understand it, that Stage 1 and Stage 2 funding is SBIR. Once they get to Stage 3, they can seek other federal grant funding. Obviously, they can seek venture capital funding. The other thing is, you know, once a firm gets its Stage 2 grant, the ownership restrictions effectively recede, and they are free to, continue to raise money from
Okay,
wherever.
so let me ask you, does the SBA oppose the Department of Defense commercialization pilot program?
I'm not familiar with their program in detail. I'd be happy to answer that for the record, though.
Well, I'm asking that question because in the draft bill, we extend the commercialization pilot program to all the agencies. And this is important for me to know and for the committee whether or not you support the Department of Defense pilot program.
So you're saying that the 2.5% specifically in SBIR would now be able to be used for stage 3? Is that what you're proposing?
No.
Okay, then I'm...
No, they are using this money for, this is the part of...
This could be used for administrative.
Yeah. DOD uses this, let me go to the next question. The Defense Department commercialization program allows the agency to use 1% of the SBIR set aside for payment administrative cost. This provision has the effect of...
Oh, I see. Yeah, I understand.
So, if you support, if the agency support the pilot project, that's my question.
Yeah, we don't have an issue with your taking a portion of the money, and I know you have some funding. We don't have an issue with providing funding to help support firms during that transition. I'm more concerned with, the essence of the grant program being shifted toward commercialization when we're trying to use it primarily to seed early stage innovation.
My question is, do you support the use of money for agencies' expenses, or will you oppose it, or it should be solely used for R&D? Because if we allow the Department of Defense to use money to cover administrators' expenses, then we are taking money away from money that is supposed to go to R&D. We are just supporting the agency's bottom line. Mm-hmm. So what is your position regarding that issue? Well, the money should go just for research, or should we allow for agencies to use the money to cover operating expenses, administrative expenses? The 2.5.
Okay, I am not familiar with the DoD program. I apologize. I would be happy to look into it and give you questions for the record. I do know you have some provisions in your language to support firms going through that process, and that's what I thought you were getting at. But I would have to, I would just have to look into that further.
Let me ask this last question, and then I will recognize Mr. Chabot. Congress has received testimony alleging that the SBA is not adequately meeting its responsibility under the current SBIR statute. One example is SBA's inability to collect and distribute meaningful data about the SBIR program. Would you provide the SBA's Office of Technology with additional resources so that it can carry out its responsibility?
Well, I think what I need to do is understand specifically what responsibilities you're talking about in detail, and then assess whether or not they're in fact not meeting those. So I'd rather not make a judgment.
Well, the Office of Technology is charged with the collection of data, and they haven't done that. And it went from 13 people, staff, to only 4. So do you think that the fact that they're not fulfilling their responsibilities because of manpower, and if so, would you support assign more resources so that they...
I'm not, ma'am, I'm not willing to accept that they're not fulfilling their responsibilities based on your statement. I am willing to work with you to understand what the concerns are and address them in a very hands-on way. Now, I will also tell you that we do expect to expand the TechNet program system right now to provide much of the data that has been lacking in the program, and I believe that launch is going to be in the next 6 to 8 weeks. But I would be happy to work closely with the committee to keep you abreast of the advances we're making there, and also understand any specific shortfalls so that we can address them.